Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar begins his visit to Singapore, discuss gamut of issues with his counterpart. Also to visit China to attend SCO ministerial meet. Gaza ceasefire talks in the balance as Hamas and Israel accuse each other of blocking attempts to strike a deal. Mexican president says trade deal with US still possible as Trump threatens 30% tariffs on Mexican imports. EU chief vows to take all necessary steps to safeguard bloc's interests. Analysts voice concern. In cricket, Lord's Test hangs in balance after India matched England's first innings score of 387 run on an attritional day of third Test. Thrilling showdown awaits in Wimbledon as Carlos Alcaraz to face Jannik Sinner in men's singles. Iga Swiatek lifts maiden Wimbledon title with 6-0 win over Amanda Anisimova. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar began his visit to Singapore and China. In his first stopover, EAM Jaishankar met his Singaporean counterpart Vivian Balakrishnan, exchanged views on several key issues. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar also met Chairman-designate of Temasek Holdings Teo Chee Han. Both discussed the transformation underway in India and its investment opportunities. Later, EAM Jaishankar will also visit China to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Foreign Ministers meeting and also to hold bilateral talks with the leaders on the sidelines of the meeting. In a major announcement, President Draupadi Murmu has in fact nominated former diplomat Harsh Shringla and eminent lawyer Ujwal Nikham, who helped prosecute 26/11 attack terrorist Ajmal Kasab, to the Rajya Sabha. In a gazette notification put out by the Ministry of Home Affairs, 4 members were nominated to the upper house of the parliament, which comprised people from varied backgrounds, including diplomacy, the legal fraternity, historian and social worker. Those who were named on the MHA list of nominees included Harsh Shringla, an accomplished diplomat, Ujwal Nikham, a lawyer, Meenakshi Jain, an eminent historian, and Sadananda Master, a Kerala teacher. In fact, Sadanandan Master, a Kerala teacher. PM Modi congratulated all 4 members who were nominated for the upper house. Renowned lawyer Ujwal Nikham thanked President Draupadi Murmu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi for the honor, saying the Prime Minister expressed his faith in me and I'm truly grateful for his trust and encouragement.
आज जो राष्ट्रपति महोदय मुझे विश्वास प्रकट किया, मैं इससे बहुत खुश हूं और मैं पूरी हमारी जनता का व्यक्तिशः आभारी हूं। हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री भाजपा के जेपी नड्डा जी और गृह मंत्री अमित भाई जी और हमारे महाराष्ट्र के मुख्यमंत्री देवेंद्र फडणवीस, इनका व्यक्तिशः आभारी हूं।
After the release of the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau's AAIB preliminary report on the Air India flight AI-171 fatal crash in Ahmedabad, Union Minister of State for Civil Aviation Mullidhar Mohol on Saturday said that the report was a preliminary one and conclusions should not be drawn based on it. Speaking to media persons, he said that the AAIB is an autonomous authority and the ministry does not interfere in their work.
एक महीने के अंदर एआईबी ने अपना प्राथमिक रिपोर्ट दिया है, तो उसमें जो चीज़ें आई है, जो उसमें बातें आई है, उसकी और जांच होगी, फिर उसके बाद मुझे लगता है कि उस पर बात करना उचित होगा। देश में कहीं भी अगर किसी हेलीकॉप्टर का भी एक्सीडेंट होता तो हमें ब्लैक बॉक्स बाहर देश भेजना पड़ता था, लेकिन देखो कि एक दिन के अंदर हमारे एआईबी की टीम, बाकी एजेंसीज ने ये ब्लैक बॉक्स वहाँ पे मिला, उसको ढूंढा, उसके बाद 1 महीने के अंदर इसका प्राथमिक रिपोर्ट भी आया। तो मुझे लगता है कि बहुत अच्छा काम चल रहा है और एक के बाद एक मुझे लगता है कि इस पे काम होने के बाद फाइनल रिपोर्ट आएगा।
According to the report, flight data recovered from the aircraft's enhanced airborne flight recorder revealed that the fuel cutoff switches for both engines were inadvertently moved from run to cutoff, one after the other within a 1-second interval at an altitude just moments after liftoff. The report also includes a conversation between the pilots on the fuel controls before the crash. In the cockpit voice recording, one of the pilots is heard asking the other why did he cut off, to which the second pilot replied that he had not done so. After spending around 2 weeks at International Space Station, Axiom Mission 4 astronaut crew, including Indian astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla, are set to return to Earth. The SpaceX Dragon spacecraft carrying the 4 astronauts is scheduled to undock from the ISS on Monday, July 14. The Dragon capsule will leave the ISS's Harmony module around 4:35 p.m. IST. After undocking, the spacecraft will head back to Earth for a splashdown off the coast of California. Arrival back to Earth, splashdown scheduled for 15th July at 3 p.m. IST. These timings have a margin window of approximately 1 hour. 8 Khalistani terrorists, including one wanted in India by the National Investigation Agency (NIA), have been arrested by the Federal Bureau of Investigation from different parts of the US. Among the 8 arrested Khalistani terrorists is Pavitr Singh Batala, who is a gangster in Punjab and is wanted for carrying out terror activities at the behest of banned terrorist organization Babbar Khalsa International. During a raid in San Joaquin County, California, the FBI seized 5 handguns, including a fully automatic Glock, an assault rifle, hundreds of rounds of ammunition, high-capacity magazines, and over $15,000 in cash. The anti-terror agency has also filed a charge sheet against Batala. The second edition of the Northeastern Region District Sustainable Development Goals Index Report 2023-24 was released by Niti Aayog. The index covers 121 of 131 Northeast districts, with 103, that is 85%, classified as front-runners. All districts in Mizoram, Sikkim and Tripura achieve front-runner status. Anathial in Mizoram stands out as the highest-scoring district, while states like Nagaland and Tripura have shown strong and balanced performances. The region excels in clean water, gender equality and economic growth, driven by schemes like Jal Jeevan Mission. However, challenges persist in climate action and inequality. The index highlights improved data systems and local planning, guiding sustainable development efforts toward 2030. The International Buddhist Confederation has organized a conference on Sunday in New Delhi to celebrate the 90th birthday of Dalai Lama. The event, celebrating glorious 90 years of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, spiritual wisdom and global relevance, honors his significant contributions to India, Buddhism and the world. Dalai Lama has been a global icon for non-violent approach, love and truth, who played a crucial role in reviving Buddhism and Buddhist institutions in the Himalayan region. A resident of India since 1959, Dalai Lama self-identifies as a son of India, articulating that his mind is entirely suffused with the teachings of great Nalanda tradition. In global updates, talks aimed at securing a ceasefire in Gaza hung in balance on Saturday as both Hamas and Israel accused each other of obstructing efforts to end nearly 21 months of conflict. The deadlock comes amid ongoing negotiations in Qatar and intensifying pressure from families of Israeli hostages to reach a deal. Both Hamas and Israel have said that 10 hostages held since the Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack that sparked the war would be released if an agreement is reached. Israeli anti-government protesters took to the streets of Tel Aviv on Saturday, calling for the Israeli government to end the conflict in Gaza. Many protesters waved Israeli flags while others carried signs calling for a deal to end the war and release the hostages. The indirect talks over a U.S. proposal for a 60-day ceasefire are nonetheless expected to continue, the sources said, despite the latest obstacles in clinching a deal. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum on Saturday expressed her belief that an agreement with the United States can be reached before 30% tariffs announced by President Donald Trump take effect on 1st of August. In a speech in the border state of Sonora, she said that every country was getting a letter from Trump and her team had already begun discussions with the U.S. on Friday and was confident Mexico would get a deal. As Trump threatened on Saturday to impose a tariff on imports from Mexico and the European Union, following weeks of negotiations with the United States' main trading partners that did not result in a global trade agreement.
De hoy, muy temprano, salió una carta firmada por el presidente Trump, donde dice que a México le van a poner 30% de aranceles a todo lo que se exporte a Estados Unidos. Y nosotros creemos que, por lo que platicaron el día de ayer nuestros compañeros, que vamos a llegar a un acuerdo con el gobierno de los Estados Unidos y que vamos a llegar, por supuesto, a mejores condiciones. De Justicia de la Nación. Tenemos claro que podemos trabajar con el gobierno de Estados Unidos y tenemos claro que no. Y hay algo que no se negocia, nunca, es la soberanía de nuestro país.
In response, European leaders reacted quickly to Trump's announcement. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that the EU is prepared to take the necessary steps to safeguard its interests, including the adoption of proportionate countermeasures if required. Von der Leyen said in a statement that the bloc remained ready to continue working towards an agreement by August 1st. While European Council President Antonio Costa said the European Union remains firm, united and is ready to protect its interests, adding the tariffs fuel inflation and create uncertainty. Following the Trump announcement, an analyst warned on Saturday that Trump's new threat to impose a 30% tariff on European imports is bringing the US and the EU closer to trade war. The August 1st deadline gives the targeted countries time to negotiate agreements that could lower the threatened tariffs. Some investors and economists have also noted Trump's pattern of backing off his tariff threats. U.S. President Donald Trump said he might revoke talk show host Rosie O'Donnell's U.S. citizenship after she criticized his administration's handling of weather forecasting agencies in the wake of deadly Texas floods, the latest salvo in a year-long feud that two have waged over social media. Under U.S. law, a president cannot revoke the citizenship of an American born in the United States. O'Donnell was born in New York State. O'Donnell, a longtime target of Trump's insults and jabs, moved to Ireland earlier this year with her 12-year-old son after the start of President's second term. She said in a March TikTok video that she would return to U.S. when it is safe for all citizens to have equal rights there in America. O'Donnell responded. In U.S., charges against a doctor accused of destroying COVID-19 vaccines and giving children fake shots at their parents' request have been dropped. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced on Saturday that she is dismissing the criminal charges against the Utah plastic surgeon who was currently on trial for allegedly issuing fake Centers for Disease Control and Prevention COVID-19 vaccination records cards to people who sought fake vaccine cards. He was accused of destroying or disposing of over $28,000 worth of government-provided COVID vaccines. Moore, who faced decades behind bars, was also accused of administering a saline solution to children at the behest of their parents so that they would think they had been vaccinated against COVID. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. North Korea's Kim confirms unconditional support for Russia in Ukraine conflict. France announces historic deal creating New Caledonia state that stays French. Bavaria's fairy tale royal castles added to the UNESCO's World Heritage List.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un offered Moscow his full support on the Ukraine conflict during talks with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Lavrov's visit to North Korea was the latest in a series of high-profile trips by top Moscow officials as both countries deepen military and political ties amid Russia's offensive against Kiev. North Korea's official KCNA news agency reported that Kim and Lavrov met on Saturday in an atmosphere full of warm camaraderie, trust. Kim told Lavrov that Pyongyang was ready to unconditionally support and encourage all the measures taken by the Russian leadership as regards the tackling of the root cause of the Ukrainian crisis. The North Korean leader also expressed a firm belief that the Russian army and people would surely win victory in accomplishing the sacred cause of defending the dignity and basic interests of the country. Lavrov told Kim that Putin hopes for continued direct contacts in the very near future. As US President Donald Trump reaffirmed Washington's commitment to resuming weapons supply to Ukraine, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that high-level talks are scheduled for next week with the US. Zelensky, in an address, has emphasized the restoration of military aid shipments and the upcoming military-level discussions with the US, noting that the assistant to the US President and the Special Presidential Envoy for Ukraine, General Keith Kellogg, will be here in Kiev for the discussions. The Ukrainian president further called for the sanctions against Moscow to pressure the state to end the conflict, which is currently in its third year. Earlier on Tuesday, Trump, during his meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House, reaffirmed Washington's commitment to bolstering Ukraine's defense capabilities, stating that the US would be sending weapons to Ukraine to defend itself from Russia. Trump on Thursday stated that the US would be providing weapons to NATO allies who can then transfer them to Ukraine. France on Saturday announced a historic accord with New Caledonia in which the overseas territory will be declared a new state within the French realm. The 13-page accord reached on Saturday after negotiations in Paris between the French government and groups on both sides of the territory's independence debate proposes the creation of a state of New Caledonia with its own nationality. The talks were convened by French President Emmanuel Macron after an earlier series of talks held between February and May 2025 failed to yield an agreement. After 10 days of talks, the parties agreed that a state of New Caledonia should be created. The released document signed by almost 20 politicians details what the deal would imply for New Caledonia's future. New Caledonia's population will be called to approve the agreement in February 2026. If approved, the text would be the centerpiece of a special organic law voted by the local Congress. As the United States seeks clarity from its allies over their role in potential conflict over Taiwan, Australia has stated it will not commit its troops in advance. Speaking to the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Defence Industry Minister Pat Conroy said that the decision to commit Australian troops to a conflict will be made by the government of the day, not in advance, but by the government of the day. Conroy said Australia will decide its role when the time comes. The minister said that Australia prioritizes its sovereignty and will not discuss hypotheticals, Conroy added. Australia was concerned about China's military buildup of nuclear and controversial forces and wants a balanced Indo-Pacific region where no country dominates. The Australian minister's statement comes ahead of the country's largest war-fighting exercise with the US at Sydney Harbour. Bavaria's fairy tale royal castles, in fact, have been added to the UNESCO World Heritage List. And the decision made by the UNESCO World Heritage Committee during its 47th session in Paris is recognizing the architectural and cultural significance of King Ludwig II's 19th century palaces. Construction began at Neuschwanstein in 1869, but the project was never completed and building work halted when the Bavarian king died in 1886. The castle is now one of the most popular tourist sites in Germany, receiving roughly 1.4 million visitors per year. It inspired the Disney castle logo after the Walt Disney visited in 1950s. Bavarian state premier Markus Söder described the designation as a worldwide accolade, calling Neuschwanstein Bavaria's landmark par excellence. The tennis world is set for another blockbuster showdown just 35 days after the unforgettable French Open final. Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner are ready to renew their rivalry, this time on the hallowed lawns of Wimbledon. Their rivalry is defining this new era. They have shared the last 6 Grand Slams, and Alcaraz leads the head-to-head 8-4. A report by DD India correspondent Narayan Singh.
Last time Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner met in a Grand Slam final, the tennis world witnessed one of the greatest matches in the recent memory. A 5.5-hour marathon match in the French Open final that had everything: drama, intensity, and history. Just 35 days later, they are back at again. This time it's the Wimbledon final 2025, and the stakes couldn't be higher. World number 1 Jannik Sinner comes into the final in top form. He hasn't dropped a set all tournament and cruised past Novak Djokovic in the semi-finals, ending 24-time Grand Slam champions' hopes for yet another title. And on the other side is defending champion Carlos Alcaraz, who had to dig deep throughout the fortnight, from a 5-set scare in the first round to powering past Taylor Fritz in the semis of the Wimbledon. Spaniard is looking hungry to lift his 4th major title. But let's rewind for a moment. In that unforgettable Roland Garros final, Sinner was 2 sets up. He had 3 championship points, but Alcaraz, he refused to go away. The 22-year-old mounted a stunning comeback to snatch the title, showing the world why he is called the successor of the Big Three. The rivalry is quickly becoming the centerpiece of the new era in the men's tennis. Alcaraz and Sinner have won the last 6 Grand Slams between them. That's how dominant these two have become. As for head-to-head records, Alcaraz leads 8-4, including 5 straight wins over Sinner, the most recent being that dramatic win in Paris. But here is a twist. The only time they have played on grass was right here at Wimbledon in 2022, and Sinner won that match. So, can the Italian flip the script again on the center court? Or will Alcaraz extend his streak and defend his crown? One thing is for sure, this rivalry is just getting started, with both players still in their early 20s. Expect many more slams finals between them.
8th seed Iga Swiatek humbled Amanda Anisimova in the final to bag her maiden Wimbledon title, and in the process set several records. It is the first time a woman has won a final at the All England club without dropping a game since 1911. The Pole is the second player in the Open era to win a major without losing a game since 1988.
24-year-old Iga Swiatek not only clinched her maiden Wimbledon crown, but also scripted history, a rare feat in 114 years at the tournament. Swiatek demolished Amanda Anisimova 6-0, 6-0 in the most one-sided women's final to clinch her sixth Grand Slam title. It is the first time a woman has won a final at the All England club without dropping a game since 1911. Earlier, Britain's Dorothea Lambert-Chambers triumphed by the same margin. The Pole is just the second player in the Open era to win a major without losing a game in the final. Prior to this, Steffi Graf humbled Natalia Zvereva at the French Open in 1988. She is Wimbledon's eighth consecutive first-time women's champion since Serena Williams won in 2016. Swiatek lost just one set during the entire tournament as she won her first trophy on grass. Swiatek has won the French Open 4 times and also the US Open in 2022. Now her next stop is Australian Open next year to have all 4 major trophies in her cabinet. Anisimova was expected to prove a stern test after ousting world number 1 Ariana Sabalenka in the semi-finals, but Swiatek was superlative. Sports Desk, DD India.
In sports, India's third test against England at Lord's remains delicately poised after a day of grind and drama, with KL Rahul notching a sublime century to steer India to parity on third day. His composed knock of 100 of 177 deliveries, coupled with crucial contributions from Ravindra Jadeja and Rishabh Pant, helped the visitors post 387, matching England's first innings total on pitch, showing variable bounce and subtle turn. With the pitch deteriorating and emotions running high, Day 4 promises a compelling contest in this finely balanced test. That's all for this edition of DD India Live. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.